Would you think that I'm crazy if I told you that you should be absolutely terrified of pigs?
Susan, we found a leg by your house.
A leg?
A human leg next to your place. Who could it be?
No idea.
Did you know that they would eat anything? Just think about that for a second and don't forget it. And also don't forget that you cannot trust the food that certain people bring to the community potluck.
He was like half eaten. He was...
By what?
By the pigs.
Happy belated Halloween, fellow detectives, and welcome back to Haunt in the Case. I hope everyone had a very fun and very safe Halloween, and I'm so sorry that this episode is a little bit late. My sweet little puppy Sunny was at the emergency vet for hours this week, and it got me a little bit off of my schedule, but I should only be posting this episode one day late. It should be up on Saturday. She is doing so much better now, so thank you everyone that was worried about us. She's doing a lot better, and we are back for this week's episode. This is the horrifying case of the pig farmer Susan Monica, and my name is Brianna, and I'm hot on the case. Susan Monica was born on July 8th, 1948, and other than her birthday, I don't really know anything at all about her childhood or even her teen years. And I know a lot of you, including myself, really like to know about those early formative years on the people that we talk about. I personally would definitely like to know about what Susan's home life was like as a child, what her parents were like, and what the conditions of the home were like. After joining in the U.S. Navy and serving in the Vietnam War, Susan was honorably discharged, and after being discharged from the Navy, Susan transitioned. Susan is a male to female transgender. Susan then started a career in engineering and even started her own company, the White Queen Construction Company. She had an incredible reputation for being extremely hardworking. When you hired Susan to do a job, not only would it get done, it would get done right, and she would always go above and beyond. And on top of that, her great reputation went far beyond just her professional life. Everyone in the community definitely knew of Susan Monica. At first, people were quite taken aback by her. They were quite intimidated by her. She's this very tall, big lady. Susan was also a recluse living off the land in like the isolated wilderness outside of this small town in Oregon. So whenever she would come into town for supplies or whatever, she was pretty filthy and kind of smelly. But when people actually gave Susan a chance and got to know her, most people felt like she was very likable and very kind and caring. Susan purchased over 20 acres of land in this super rural area, this small town of Weimar, Oregon. And this was just a plot of land in this super wooden area. Okay, there wasn't a home there, it was just land. It's really hard to find concrete answers about Susan's life, but I'm pretty sure she grew up in San Francisco and she wanted to leave the big city and she wanted to buy this property of land and she wanted to live off the grid, live off the land in this isolated area. And completely by herself, she begins clearing the lot because she wants to build herself a home and also build herself a barn for all of her chickens and her pigs. For video listeners, I'm going to try and put in as many videos and photos I can of what Susan Monica's property looked like. There was no inside to Susan's home. There was just a lot of trash everywhere. There was a single pig pen for all of Susan's pigs, and then she had this small little room that was off of the pig pen. So Susan pretty much just lived amongst her pigs, and in this small little room, if you can even call it that, she had a bed, a TV, and a stove. But other than that, there was no home. She did not have a bathroom. She did not have running water. She did not have electricity. She had a few solar panels, but that's all she had for electricity. Her neighbors were actually really shocked that someone would willingly live in these conditions. Susan was a pretty isolated person, but this was like a lot more than just like living off the grid. And even though Susan really liked to keep to herself, she really would go out of her way to help the people in her community. She would offer to do any favors for anyone in need. She would run errands for people and would even help feed the local elderly population. Susan would often butcher one or more of her pigs and then donate the meat to the local nursing homes. Taking care of this large property and all of the animals that Susan had was a lot of work for one person, and because Susan claimed to really care about people, she took many ads out on Craigslist offering free room and board on her roomless property in exchange for help doing odd jobs around her pig farm. And over the years, Susan had a lot of people live and work there. She would pay them a little bit of cash, but it was mostly just a free place for them to stay and park their vehicle. In 2013, Susan ran an ad on Craigslist looking for like a jack-of-all-trades handyman type to come stay with her and do whatever work needed to get done, which is how 56-year-old Robert Haney ended up living and working with Susan Monica. Robert Haney was your nomad type. He was a traveler, a transient, kind of like a free-spirited type of guy. Robert had 5 adult children, and after raising his children and getting a divorce, he bought an RV, grabbed some tools, and hit the road to see where life would take him, doing odd jobs here and there to make enough cash to get to the next place. Robert was still living out of his RV while working for Susan. It was just now parked on her land. Robert and Susan seemingly got along really well. They had a lot of shared interests. Robert would help Susan with construction, renovation, farm work, and for a while, it seemed like a really good setup. It seemed like a mutually beneficial situation. All seemed really, really good until Robert mysteriously disappeared. It was around September of 2013 that anyone reported last speaking or seeing Robert. Robert had 5 adult children, like I said, and it honestly wasn't weird for them to go weeks or even months without hearing from their father. But when Thanksgiving passed, and then Christmas passed, and then even New Year's passed, and they did not hear from their father, they just had this feeling that something was really, really wrong. So the 5 of them are like hitting each other up, in a family group chat. Have you heard from dad? Have you heard from dad? And after multiple failed attempts to try and get in contact with their father, Robert's kids actually made the trek all the way to Susan's isolated property and farm in the middle of nowhere. And once they got there, what they saw only made them even more concerned. Susan told Robert's kids that she hadn't seen or heard from their father in like 4 months, but all of his belongings were still on her property. His ID, his wallet, his tools, which he literally never left without. His tools were his livelihood. Being a handyman was how he made his money. His camper was still parked on Susan's property, which is he can't get really far without that. And most worrisome of all, Robert's beloved dog was still there, just running around Susan's property. Forget his money, forget his car, forget his home. Robert would have never left his dog behind willingly. So Robert's son actually went and reported him missing in January of 2014. And at first, honestly, investigators weren't that concerned. This was a man that was known for hitting the road and being really hard to get in contact with for long stretches of time. But when you have a man's children sitting in front of you and they're worried about their father and it's around the holidays, it's really hard not to feel for them. So instead of just brushing this under the rug, like I bet a lot of other people would have done in this situation, the officers did begin investigating. And of course, the first place that the investigation started was the pig farm of Susan Monica. They really wanted to speak with Susan first because she was the last known person to see and speak to Robert Haney. Susan was very helpful and cooperative and nice when the officers came to her farm. She told the officers the exact same story that she told his kids, that she hadn't seen him since September. She also mentioned to the officers that around the same time that Robert Haney vanished, one of his daughters reportedly was sexually assaulted, and this made him furious, and he kind of alluded to the fact that he was going to leave to go seek revenge on this person that assaulted his daughter. So now the investigators are thinking maybe that's why he left, And when he confronted this person, maybe that person had something to do with Robert's disappearance. Susan also said that she did not bother to report Robert missing because, one, she did not think it was her responsibility to do so. It wasn't any of her business where this grown man went and how long he was gone for. But two, he left all of his belongings behind on her property, so she thought that he would come back eventually. And the officer speaking to Susan Monica really did believe her story. So they continue investigating, but it was honestly really hard for them to piece together Robert Handy's last known movements because he was this wanderer type. He did not have a credit card. He did not have a debit card. He always paid in cash for everything, which does not leave a trail. There was only one thing for them to go off of, and that was that Robert had like an EBT food stamp card. So when they checked the recent transactions on Robert's food stamp card, they saw that the last time it had been used was about 2 months after he vanished in December at a local Walmart. When the officers go to the Walmart and they ask to see the security camera footage of the date and time that Robert's EBT card was used, thankfully, they actually had that footage available for them to look at. And I feel like I never get to say that in these cases I cover. Anytime it seems like there's security camera in these cases, either the security camera isn't working or after like 24 hours, it just like records over its own footage. Honestly, really don't know what the point of having a security camera is if you can't look at the footage, but whatever. So the hope in looking in the security camera footage is that maybe they would get some kind of clues of where Robert was going. Maybe in the security camera, he is maybe like with someone that would point to maybe where he was now. But while they're going through the security camera footage, they see the person using Robert Handy's EBT card, and it was not Robert Handy. It was Susan Monica. So officers got a search warrant to search Susan Monica's 20-acre property, and they also planned to arrest her for fraud and identity theft for using Robert Handy's EBT card. Susan was absolutely adamant that Robert let her use his food stamp card, but officers still did a search of the property looking for any other evidence of fraud or identity theft. Like I mentioned previously, this property was horrendous. It was disgusting. The stench was almost unbearable. There were pigs and chickens absolutely everywhere. And very quickly, a discovery was made that would completely change this case.
That appears to be possibly human, but further examination obviously appears to be an ankle, foot, knee joint.
A human leg bone right near where Susan Monica slept, just out in the open, lying in the dirt. The officers made the choice not to tell Susan Monica right away about their grisly discovery. Instead, they brought her down to the station to ask a few questions. And Susan kept to her story that she hadn't seen Robert since September, and she didn't have any other answers for them. Even after mentioning finding a human leg on her property, Susan just kept playing dumb. She even offered up her own theory to investigators that maybe, unknowingly to her, Robert did return to her property, but before she saw Robert, that he died in some kind of way, and then some kind of animal later dragged his bones to her property right near where she slept every single night.
Susan,
So,
we found a leg by your house.
a leg?
A human leg next to your place. I think it might be Robert.
Don't know.
Who could it be?
No idea.
You think it might be Robert?
I guess I should ask where it was. If it was down there by his trailer.
No. It was right next to your place.
I don't know then. If it were down by his trailer, he might have fallen down the hill or something. But if it was up at my place, I don't know.
That's it. Do you think it's kind of strange that there's a leg right next to your place?
Very.
Does it concern you?
Yes.
Do you think it might be Robert?
It could be, but I can't understand why. If we're, I can't understand how it. I can't understand how it would get there because I can't see him having an accident up by my place.
How do you think it got there? What's your best reasoning for how it got there?
I have no idea.
What do you think we should do at this point? I mean, are you worried about Robert? Do you think it might be him?
I would definitely get a DNA test to find out if it were.
Do you think if we search the 19.99 acres that we're going to find any other parts of people?
If it's Robert's leg, I guess the rest of him is there somewhere.
So you think a coyote drug it right next to your house?
That would be the only thing that would make any sense to me.
What do you think happened to Robert? What did he do?
I have no idea.
Did he do something to you?
No.
The thing about Susan Monica, for someone who claims that she does not want much to do with people, she really knows how to talk. Susan Monica talks and talks and talks. Susan Monica talks even when it's probably better for herself to just shut up. Unprompted, Susan Monica just starts making these really off-putting, bizarre comments. Susan Monica openly tells the officers that are questioning her that she has very little regard for human life, that she's a supporter of eugenics, and that she's also a supporter for China's one child per family policy, just multiple times.
Should not be saying it, but I'm trying to tell the truth. I do not value human life very much. My feeling is the only thing wrong with this planet is there's people on it. If it weren't for us, all the other animals, dodo birds and whatever else would still be here. There are 7 billion people on the world, and we're destroying it constantly through just the simple fact of multiplication. Overpopulating.
So what do we do about it? Nothing?
Well, China is doing something about it. China says you can have 1 kid. Or a number of diseases. Sickle cell anemia. Okay? There's a lot of people with sickle cell anemia. Okay? If you take everybody with sickle cell anemia and say you cannot reproduce, in 1 generation you have ended sickle cell anemia.
Sure.
China allows people to have 1 child, which is very good.
After quite a bit of this, Susan finally tells the officers a story about what happened to Robert Handy the day he died. Whether or not you believe her story is completely up to you. But this story that Susan Monica told the officers was enough to even give the most seasoned investigators nightmares for months. It all happened one morning in September of 2013. Susan woke up and it seemed like it was gonna be any other morning. On her to-do list that day was to do some renovation work, feed her chickens, feed her pigs, and do some construction work. One of those things would not have to be done that day. It was still really early in the morning when Susan started hearing some really bizarre noises coming from her pig's pen. As she makes her way over to check on her pigs, Susan sees her pigs going absolutely crazy. They're like in a frenzy. And as she gets closer, she sees Robert Haney lying on the ground of the pig pen, and Susan's pigs were eating him alive. See, that's the thing most people don't know about pigs. They imagine these cute little pink creatures. They think Wilbur, Babe, Peppa, Porky, Miss Piggy, cute little noses and curly tails. But in reality, and I did not know this myself until I started researching true crime, but pigs are horrifying. This is actually the second time that I've researched a case where this exact same thing happens. Have you ever heard of Robert Pickton, the pig farmer serial killer that fed his victims to his pigs in Canada? Pigs will eat anything. They are like little garbage disposals. They will eat a human. They will eat you. And according to Susan's story, somehow Robert just tripped and fell in the pig pen and then got eaten alive. These are the same pigs that he had helped care for, and they ate him alive. His guts and his intestines were pulled out of his stomach and just stretched all over the pig pen. Susan said that Robert was moaning and flailing around, and instead of trying to stop her pigs or call an ambulance or call the police, Susan went and grabbed a rifle and shot Robert in the head. She claimed that it was a mercy killing. And okay, let's take that at face value. Let's say that Susan Monica really did think that she was doing the right thing. She sees this man, he's being mauled alive, he's being eaten alive by animals, and this is a man that she knows, that she's lived with, that she's worked beside for multiple months. And she thinks the best thing that she can do in that very traumatic situation is to just put him out of his misery as quick as possible. The next step in that situation would be to report this to the police. Report this to the police so that his children can have closure and can respectfully put their father to rest. But did Susan Monica do that? No. Instead, Susan Monica left Robert's body in her pig pen and let them feed on his body for the next 3 days. And as Susan is telling the story to the investigators, she has no emotion. She's showing no emotion. She's showing no remorse or regret for Robert and his family. The only time she showed any emotion was when she was talking about her pigs. The only thing that she was concerned about was if they were going to euthanize her pigs because they ate and they killed someone. She said that she did not care about humans, but she loved her pigs so much they were like her children or something.
When I told you that there was a leg by your place, your expression didn't change. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal.
It is.
Well, certainly if I found a leg by my house, I'd be freaked out.
Well, I'm not freaked out, but I'm, very surprised.
Say there is a bullet hole in him. Say there is a mark that is from a sharp instrument. We can analyze that mark and actually see what metal is in there and the particles and compare that to anything that somebody may have in their home or in their possession.
Yes.
And we clearly want to make sure that happens. And we need to know if you have any knowledge of anything that happened to him, that now would probably be the time to tell us.
If my pigs did eat Robert, would you kill my pigs?
Well, I don't know. That's something we'd have to look at.
Everything that I told you was the truth up until about a week after Bobby had called me. Sometime about a week after Bobby had called, I went down and he was like half eaten.
By what?
By the pigs.
Okay.
His guts were all over the place. He was still alive. I knew he wasn't going to be alive for more than a few more minutes. I went back up to my house and I got a gun and shot him in the head. I didn't want my pigs to be shot for not doing something that the natural causes. Well, pigs get hungry. If he was out there, I don't know what happened to start with. If he went out and started doing something to them, I can't see that my pigs would go ahead and do something to somebody without cause. They've always been very friendly with me. They still are very friendly with me.
You went back into your house.
I went up and got my rifle and I Shot him in the head.
How many times?
I don't know.
More than once?
I don't know. I went and fed my other animals, and I just left him there.
And the officers hearing this story, they're unsure what to believe. In their mind, there were two possible scenarios, okay? That she shot Robert because he was being eaten alive, or she shot Robert and then fed him to her pigs. And the more you think about it, it's like, well, yeah, how did Robert just happen to fall into the pig pen and then get eaten alive? You would think if a grown man fell and tripped in a pig pen, he would be able to get himself up and out of that pig pen before being mauled alive. It seems to me that even if he fell and then like one pig started running over and tried to bite him, he would definitely be able to like get up and out of that pig pen before any like serious bodily harm would happen to him.
So you can see how when we listen to what you're saying,
I know it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me.
And so when you come out and you see your pigs eating Robert, and he's still alive,
yes,
for us to hear that, it's not even possible. If you take anybody and you put them in a pig pen, even if they've been around pigs, they're going to know that if I start getting attacked by a pig or something, I'm going to try to get out of here.
Yes.
I'm not going to lay down on the ground and let pigs just eat my stomach.
Right.
Until I can't move and then have someone come shoot me in the head.
But what really happened that day, we probably will never know. And as the investigators tried to piece together all of these unanswered questions, they are relentlessly asking Susan about what happened. Did she actually kill Robert? They're trying to get answers out of Susan. They're pretty much just accusing her of lying and killing Robert and then feeding him to her pigs after he was already dead. And in a way, almost to make the investigators stop asking about Robert, unprompted, Susan willingly gave them some information that they were not aware of yet. Susan told the investigators that they would find another set of human remains buried on her property.
There is something else that I don't want to say.
All you can do is tell me.
But
I'm here to listen.
But it doesn't make sense. That's the thing.
Okay. I'm just going to listen. You tell me.
Oh, God, give me another piece of paper. Right there, about 3 feet down, there's part of another body.
Okay.
His name is Steve. Steve.
59-year-old Stephen Delacino was another handyman that lived and worked on Susan's pig farm before he vanished in 2012, the year before Robert Haney disappeared. On the night that Stephen died, Susan claimed that he got really drunk and he tried to steal from her. When she confronted him, he tried to attack her. So to defend herself, Susan shot Stephen, which had him fall backwards, and he fell into her pig pen. And then her pigs fed on Stephen's body. But she does change her story multiple times between that story and saying that Stephen actually shot himself in the head repeatedly. Stephen shot himself in the head 5 times, and then he fell into her pig pen and was fed on.
So we have the improbable situation of somebody shooting themselves 5 times.
Yes.
And then somehow getting drug out into the pig yard.
Yes, that was a couple days later.
Right. And then we have the improbable situation of Robert magically appearing in the pig yard.
Yes.
After a month of absence, he just magically appears in the pig yard.
Yes.
Barely holding on to the ends of his life. And you chose him over the pigs.
I would convict myself on both counts, but I am guilty of neither.
No matter what series of events you believe, really, what are the odds that 2 men were shot and fed to the pigs on Susan's property and it wasn't intentional? Susan left Stephen's body in her pig's pen for God knows how long, and then she buried what was left of him, or what little was left of him, and then just never told a soul about it until now. And because Stephen was also this like traveling nomad type of guy, no one ever reported him missing. It's extremely likely that if Robert was never reported missing, that Stephen's body would have never been found. Robert and Stephen's bodies were so badly decomposed, it was hard to identify them. Robert's body had to be identified by one singular fingerprint. Stephen's body was identified by comparing his bones to the bones of his brother. I've literally never heard about this in a case before. I didn't even know you could identify someone by the bones of like a family member. It was determined that they were both shot in the head multiple times, and their bones had clear evidence of being gnawed on by animals, by Susan's pigs. The entire time, Susan had no remorse for these 2 men that at the very least died on her property and then were eaten by the animals that she owned. And at most, she just murdered in cold blood and then fed to her pigs. During the interrogation, Susan was very aggressive, telling one of the officers that were interrogating her that she would kill him and feed him to her pigs. She also claimed multiple times that she wanted to murder her neighbor Karen, and she would like to shoot Karen and feed Karen to her pigs.
After the first year of knowing Karen, I have never liked her. She believes the road belongs to her, it belongs to me. I can go down and show her proof. She doesn't believe it. I signed an agreement letting her use the road. I want to make improvements. She does not. I took out 4 feet of dirt to make the road instead of like this, like this. She tried to get money from the guy that I gave the dirt to. This is her. She's the bitch from hell. If I were going to kill somebody, she would be number 1. She would be number 1.
Susan was arrested on multiple charges, which included 2 counts of abuse to a corpse and 2 counts of murder. Before they took her to prison, they asked her if there was anything else that they could expect to find buried on her property. And Susan Monica replied, "If I tell you about the other 17 bodies, then you'll never let me out of prison." Susan would later claim that this was just a really bad joke, but it's extremely possible that she does have other bodies buried on her property. I mean, she had a 20-acre property, and beyond that, her property is surrounded by like the wilderness. She could have buried bodies really anywhere. And I mean, for years, Susan had been hiring these handymen to do jobs for her off of Craigslist, and these were all the same types of guy. They were these nomad, transient, traveling, free spirit type of guys, the guys that could easily go missing and no one would ever even know. Susan's pigs were reportedly put down, and Susan was upset that their bodies were destroyed and not butchered, and their meat wasn't donated to feed people.
No, ma'am. That's all at this time. Ms. Monica.
Can I make one more statement?
I think your attorney would prefer that you not.
That's correct, Susan. Don't say anything.
I would like the people of Rogue River to donate a small amount of money so that I can have my pigs butchered and the meat given to the Rogue River Community Center.
Susan, they ate people. And if you remember, Susan would donate her pig's meat to nursing homes. It's definitely not something you want to think about too much, especially if you're any of the people that ever ate Susan's pig meat before. Susan Monica's murder trial began in 2015, and Susan looked unrecognizable to the dirty mountain lady that the police arrested the year before. And during the trial, Susan kept to her story that she was not a killer, that one of these deaths was a mercy killing and the other one was self-defense. But it certainly did not look good for Susan when one of her former cellmates took the stand with a birthday card that Susan Monica gave to them while they were in prison together. Happy B-Day from the sweetest murderer in Jackson County. This is another thing that Susan Monaco would also say is just a terrible bad joke, but other people think that it's Susan Monaco admitting to being a cold-blooded killer. It took the jury 1 hour to come back guilty. She was given 2 life sentences at 66 years old with the possibility of being released after 50 years. So Susan Monaco will never get out of prison. She will die behind bars. And really the question at the center of this case is, how much do you really believe in coincidences? Logically, what are the chances that 2 men died on her property, both with gunshots to their head, and then were eaten by her pigs, and that was not intentional? I think that the most likely answer is that Susan, for whatever reason, killed these men, and then she fed them to her pigs to get rid of any evidence. But there's a lot of people out there that think that Susan Monaco's true motive was that she fed these men to her pigs just to get out of buying them pig food, that she loved them so much that she wanted to give them an extra special diet. Interested to hear your thoughts. Also, let me know if you're interested in me covering Robert Pickton, the other pig farmer serial killer from Canada. And that's all I have for this week's episode. I cannot believe that October has come to a close. Let me know what your favorite Halloween Hot on the Case episode was this year. I will see you guys all next week when we are hot on the case once again.